Missouri, South Carolina, the Missouri Tigers hold on. But, Joe, man, the Missouri Tigers under Eli Drinkwitz, the last 30 games, 25-5. The Missouri Tigers just keep on winning.
By the way, I have to say this before we hype up Missouri. I think that this is one of those games for South Carolina. Like, I don't really put anything on them in this. Like, I don't come out of this game thinking, oh, they're screwed. X, Y, and Z problem is such a big issue. That's why they've lost 2 straight games. Getting Sellers back midweek the way that you did, and him still playing as well as he did, and having the big throws that he had in this game, I thought that they still played pretty well. You just got outlasted by another team that is playing with such momentum at the current moment. So specifically to talk about Missouri, it's the same stuff that we keep hyping up and we keep pushing for this Missouri squad. The trio with Pribula, with Roberts, and with Hardy is so freaking hard to stop.
Yes.
They are so fantastic together. And the last part that we talked about in the preview, that defense generates so much pressure. They're one of the best teams in the country in havoc rate. That stuff showed up in this game against a South Carolina offensive line that's been quite shaky. I think Missouri is a legit SEC title threat. I think that it is on the table for them to get to the SEC championship game with the schedule that they have.
With the schedule they have, you could be correct. Got to go up against teams like Alabama, A&M. So we'll see there. But Joe, this is another game in the SEC. I thought there was a little coaching malpractice. Let me explain. You just had a game with everything on the line, and Missouri outran you 287 to -9. South Carolina had -9 rushing yards. Let me repeat that again. 287 to -9. Lenore Sellers did not have a rush until the third quarter. A designed quarterback run until the third quarter. Joe, I get you're trying to protect him. I thought he did some elite shit from the pocket. Joe, they tried to make Lenore Sellers beat him from the pocket, and he did. I thought last night's game from him was a stock boost more than anything.
Yeah.
But the tell of this game was I thought Pribula made some massive plays early, right? You're down at halftime, 14-12. You're kind of trading shots here. Lenore's has made some big throws, but they kept leaning and leaning and leaning, and then blanking them in the second half and getting the 11 points that you did ultimately sprung you to winning this game. But you're right. The three-headed monster of Roberts, Hardy, who, Joe, I think teams around the country are hating themselves right now about not thinking that the stature of Ahmad Hardy was a problem. And that kid is a dog, a flat-out dude. And Eli Drinkwitz has done it again. How many times are y'all going to allow Drink and Company to hit on portal backs? How many times? I think Pribula has got to clean some stuff up in the pocket. He was finally tested to the strength that I thought he needed to be tested to. 16 of 27, the interception he got baited on, the corner bailed from another receiver and picked it off. But, Joe, they can cause some issues. Their secondary last night, I thought, got torched by a guy who is not a pocket guy and a guy that normally wants to run the football, and he was able to sit in the pocket and dominate you. They got some pressure on Sellers, which ultimately won them the game. But, look, Missouri's just is going to have another solid year here. But the most dominating thing that they did was not only not getting Lenore Sellers out of the game from running the football, which they didn't call running plays for him either way. Fuller, Attaway, and Faison combined had 19 rushing yards. 19. The longest run was for 6 for Fuller, and he only had 2 carries. Joe, if you're not going to run Lenore Sellers, you better be able to run with your backs. And the simple fact that you were able to keep the game as close as you did was spectacular, and it's mainly because of Lenore Sellers' arm. But when you're able to lean on teams and run the football, that's going to continue to win you football games.
Right. They definitely got away from that and trying to establish the run when we knew that running the football is supposed to be what their identity is. So that's definitely a problem. And I think credit to Missouri on the opposite side of that to understanding and leaning into that identity. You had a decent game from Pribula as a passer. And the interception, I think that we got to recognize that pick by Kilgore was just a freaking nuts play. And he was just awesome play by him. Still not a smart throw.
Dude, their safety play is elite. I'm sorry. With Attaway, with who was not Attaway? The guy that went to Seattle.
Emmett Worry.
Yeah. And Kilgore. I mean, that's not a bad pick. You got baited, and it is what it is.
My point, though, what I was getting at with Missouri is their ability to just understand our success is going to come from the trio that we've built. I'm very excited by Ahmad Hardy. I think that he, Jeremiah Love, and Justice Haynes are going to be in a three-way fight for the Doak Walker Award at the end of the year. But them being able to just do that when things aren't super clean throwing the football, that you could just really lock down and grind out yards in physical, tight areas is how they end up winning more games. And there, as we've talked about here, they have a very favorable schedule coming up for them. The next toughest games that they have are going to be against Alabama, against Vanderbilt, against Texas A&M, and against Oklahoma. Those are tough games, but I would argue all of those are accomplishable and winnable. They are all doable for you to come out of those games with wins.
At some point, they're going to have to be, their secondary is going to have to be better. Again, Joe, listen, I don't know how to say this. Lenore Sellers is not a true pocket guy. He's not. And he whipped their ass with a receiver core who, by the way, I don't know if Joe might be the I mean, you're going to face a lot better receivers if you're Missouri and a lot better receiving duos. I look at a team like Bama, though, and just say for Missouri's future, shit. Let Ryan Williams and them get loose, and you're going to find out how bad that secondary is. The fact that they held a team to negative yards rushing is absolutely insane. It's absolute. Joe, they had negative a half a yard per rush. I mean, like,
especially a team like South Carolina of all teams to do that too is.
But Shane Beamer, I got to be honest with you, it should be a strike on the fireable offense. Look, I get Lenore Sellers had a concussion, but we saw a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback a couple of years ago have a concussion, and his cleats, jersey, helmet, everything got put in the College Football Hall of Fame because he had 650 total yards of offense by his damn self. You can't play a kid and be scared to run him when that's the strength. You lost the game by not running him. Sorry, it's the truth. I'm sorry, Joe. You gotta
wrong.
If he's going to play, you got to run him. Because what happened? Joe, my man sat back in the pocket and beat their ass. What happens if he starts running the ball?
They needed to be able to activate. They couldn't be so one-sided. That was the problem. If their running backs weren't going to be able to find production, someone had to.
Malpractice.
Yeah.
But before we get to the last game here, if you've noticed, every single game that we've talked about today, the team that won the rushing, the team that had the better rushing attack, won. Go figure. Go figure. How crazy is that? All right.